What's up, everybody? Welcome to Call to the Bullpen. I'm David Payne with Brad Zampar and Jimmy Miller. Let's play ball.
Bouncer down the line, Urshela, backhand, long throw, the stretch at first, out at first! 3-2. Fly, that one deep toward the wall, backing up Bay, reaching up, oh, what a catch! A spectacular grab by Bay. High fly ball to right from Peterson, hit well, Renfroe got turned around, and somehow... That was ridiculous!
It's play. Just throw the glove out just in case.
We are back with the Week 2 episode for the 2023 MLB season, and one of the highlights that really came about kind of starting last year was home run celebrations. So we wanted to talk about this year's top home run celebrations. I'm just going to list off a few, and then we're going to rank our top 5, 1 through 5. So in no particular order right now, the Pittsburgh Pirates have a sword. How fitting is that for the Pittsburgh Pirates? Pirates, swords, synonymous. So when the Pirates hit a home run, they wave the sword in the dugout. Very fun, very fitting for the team. Brad and I's Orioles have the Homer hose, not to be mistaken with the dong bong. Do not call it the dong bong. It is not a beer bong. It is a hose. That's meant to invoke memories of being a child in the backyard, drinking from the hose. And they actually have a whole water theme celebration around the bases. At first base, they turn the water nozzle on. At second base, they have the sprinkler, and the whole dugout will spit out water like a sprinkler. And when they hit a home run, they have the Homer hose. Do not call it the dong bong. The Los Angeles Angels have a samurai helmet, of course, fitting for Shohei Ohtani, the World Baseball Classic champion for the Samurai Japan. So they wear a samurai helmet in the dugout, which is all decked out in Angels logos and whatnot. The Brewers have a cheese head, which is fitting with the Green Bay Packers. Milwaukee cheese, Wisconsin cheese, so all goes together there. The Braves wear a giant hat in the dugout. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a giant hat. It almost looks like one of those. Do you remember a couple of years back when they were putting like padding in the hats and giving them to pitchers, and they looked ridiculous? It kind of looks exactly like one of those. Then the Padres have a Polaroid camera, and they pose for a picture. They look like some of the coolest album pictures that I've ever seen. I think that we need a Padres album similar to how the Eagles put out a Christmas album. And how good was that, by the way? I don't know if either of you guys heard that, but the Eagles can sing. The Cincinnati Reds have a Viking helmet that originally started for Jake Fraley, but they decided to expand it to the entire team now. So they wear a Viking helmet and a cape in the dugout when they hit home runs. And the Boston Red Sox have inflatable weights. So they pump some inflatable iron in the dugout, which last year they had the home run cart. So we think they're taking a step up there. So those are what I would consider the top home run celebrations. Do you guys have any idea how you would rank these?
I don't know. I do kind of like the inflatable weights. I think it's kind of a cool idea. I'd say probably first. I do like the Orioles water idea. I think it's pretty interesting, kind of unique. The cheese head's kind of played out, but I mean it's so important to the city. So I don't know where I'd rank them, but I'd probably go Orioles 1.
Yeah, a little biased, but I definitely think the Orioles one is up there as the best. I feel like what they do with the doubles too, with the sprinklers, all the pitchers on the staff, it kind of like it's a part of the Homer hose in itself, so it's like another celebration to it. So it's kind of like a two-parter, but I like the Pirates too, the samurai sword. It's really, really fitting for like the Pirates. And then the Viking helmet too is a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of course biased being an Orioles fan, but I like how it's like you said, multidimensional. It's not just the home run celebration. You've got the turning the nozzle on, you've got the sprinkler, and then the hose. So I would put the O's at 1. I love the samurai helmet. I think the samurai helmet is an awesome way to really showcase Shohei himself and his culture, and because they're gonna have a ton of Japanese fans. I'd say the Angels probably have the most Japanese fans out of any team right now. I'm sure you could say the same was true for the Mariners back in the early 2000s, but that definitely plays into their high Japanese fan base. At 3. I like the Padres Polaroids. I think that's fun and something that you can kind of collect throughout the season too. I'd love to see them put up like on the wall in the dugout, maybe like post all those Polaroids up there. And keep track of them. I think that those come out really cool. So I go those at 3. I like the pirate sword. The pirate sword, like I said, very fitting. At 4. And then I agree that the cheese helmet is kind of played out. So I'll go with the Red Sox inflatable weights there at 5. I like the Viking helmet, but I think that's best for Jake Fraley. I think that'd be fun if that was like a just him thing and they come up with something a little bit better for the team there. But that's how I would rank them. I think home run celebrations are so fun, and I actually wish that they would do them on the field instead of in the dugout. I wish they were like a before you got in the dugout kind of thing, so it's more accessible for the fans to see. But of course, we got the pitch clock. We got to keep things moving. So they do it in the dugout, and you can see pictures and videos on social media. But I'd love to see that be like front and center on the field. So some other things now that we're going to talk about this week. We're going to talk about what an embarrassment the Oakland A's are. But Brad, do you want to give a little context here as to what went down with the professional pitchers this last week?
So let me find the tweet real quick. CODIFY. So they were playing the Mets this past weekend, and these guys are paid to throw strikes. They're paid to pitch at the major league level, and while it's no fault of their own, they just can't really do it. I mean, they threw 120 pitches the other night against the Mets when they walked 17 in the game, but there was a position player who walked one, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt and not count him in that group. So 16 walks by professional pitchers, 120 balls. If you look at this picture on Codify Baseball, the Twitter account, it is just horrendous. It's really disgusting what the ownership is doing over there in Oakland. To go along with the possum in the stand or in the booth, it's really a whole mess out there. I hope that they can figure out that stadium, either get them out of there or get them out of that city.
Yeah, Brad just mentioned the possum in the booth, and that's next up on this, which is the away TV booth at the Oakland Coliseum apparently has been taken over by a possum. So they started the year at home, and the possum actually made an appearance in the booth during the game. And then they went on a little road stretch there, and they came back to find the possum had defecated all over the away broadcasting booth, which is really a pretty representative of the entire Oakland A's organization. It's just shit. It's awful. So I don't know what the answer is there besides to actually leave Oakland. I think you need to you got to scrap it. You got to start from scratch. I think that selling the team, moving the team, anything other than being the Oakland Athletics, it's too far gone at this point. The name. The name was stupid to begin with. Athletics, yeah, you're pro athletes. We get it. The whole thing just needs to be scrapped, in my opinion. So looking forward to the Vegas, whatever they come up with, hopefully, when they get these guys out of there in a couple of years. But Jimmy, what do you make of this disaster?
I don't know. I mean, it is kind of a shame when you think about it, because it's not like the Athletics are this franchise that's never won anything. I think they won 3 World Series in the 70s, and I think they might have won the one in the 80s as well, or early 90s. So they do have a good history. They've made the playoffs a ton. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if a new stadium would solve the issue, or like you said, they have to move out of there entirely. But it is sad to see. I mean, it would be cool to go there for some games, though, because you could probably get some good interactions with the players. But that would be one of the goals of mine, would be to go there before the stadium closes.
Yeah, I mean, they're drawing 3,000 a night, so you get a pretty intimate experience. So I feel bad for the A's fans, man, because they do have a strong fan base when they're successful. You saw them be successful in the early 2010s and whatnot, and they do have a strong fan base out there that wants to see winning baseball. But you can't blame them for not showing up when this is what's going on. I think I've talked about this before on the show, that I think that not going to games is the best way to protest bad ownership. If you have bad ownership, you don't go to the games and line their pockets with parking and ticket and concession sales. So I've seen A's fans like planning a day where they're all going to go to the stadium with signs and whatnot, and then chant, sell the team and remove the team and whatnot. But I don't think that that's an effective protest, because for that one game, you're absolutely lining the owner's pockets and just increasing their profits, because their payroll is bottom floor. So I also a salary floor would be something that would help teams like the A's not be such crap. But you can't count on them to put money into the stadium just based on that. Now we're gonna jump over to another team that typically has some terrible attendance, and even on the midst of a 13-game winning streak, couldn't draw a crowd. So the Tampa Bay Rays finally lost their first game. They lost back-to-back games. So the undefeated season is going to have to wait at least another year for to see a team go 162-0. And I want to talk a little bit about, are the Rays as good as they've played? Of course, they're not, the same pace here, because they would blow away the wins record and win 140 games. But are they legitimately good, or did they just play some of the worst teams in baseball history? What do you guys think?
I think it's kind of both. At the end of the day, 13 games in a row, I mean, that's a lot. I mean, at the end of the day, you'd be happy if you were to win, say, 10 out of those 13. So I think they are legitimately good. I don't think they're great. Like, I don't think they're going to win 100 games. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do put up 93, 95 wins tops. I do think they're going to break 90 because of this hot start. They're so far ahead, but I think they are a legitimately good team to win 13 games. I don't care who the opponents are. It's very impressive.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of both. But I mean, those teams, the Tigers, those Nationals, these A's, they're just bottom barrel. It's pretty embarrassing to watch those teams on a daily basis. At least the Tigers and A's. I mean, the Nationals have some young guys, but still, it's kind of a lot of journeymen, and it's just not good baseball. But the Rays, it's what they've done is they pitch, and those teams certainly can't hit. So as long as you're throwing out quality above average major leaguers, you're going to beat those teams pretty easily. And they're built well so that they're going to be able to sustain some level of the success. Obviously, it won't be that crazy pace, but yeah, I would definitely lock them in for around 90 wins.
Yeah, I mean, listen, 13 games in a row is not unheard of, right? It was unheard of maybe just to start a season, but 13 games in a row is not unheard of. We've seen 4 teams in baseball history win 20 or more in a row. And if we look at the 3 teams that have done it in recent memory, or at least since 1930, you've had the Oakland A's in 2002 win 20 games in a row, didn't do anything. The Cubs in 1935 won 21 games in a row, didn't do anything. The Cleveland Guardians in 2017, Indians at the time, won 22 games, didn't do anything. So, these long win streaks don't always equate to, being the best team or World Series championships. And 13 is certainly nothing compared to 20, 21, 22. So it's not unheard of. It was some of the worst teams ever. The Rays are, very deep team. Their AAA team might win 13 games in a row if you put them up against the 4 teams that they played. The Durham Bulls could probably be substituted into if we relegated the A's and put the Durham Bulls up in Major League Baseball, they'd probably be better. But the injury bug is biting them again. Jeffrey Springs went down. Glasnow can never stay healthy. It's the story of the Rays, right? Is that they can't stay healthy, and they are great with that next man up thing, but you do lose like your big star names to injury pretty constantly. So I still think that they're a 85 to 90 win team at best. But it was cool to see them go on such a crazy start to the season there. Now, just some quick notes before we move on to the players of the week. We got to see a first in Miguel Cabrera's career, 21 years in, which after 21 years, you wouldn't think there's many firsts left to have. But pinch hit walk-off was one that he was missing. So we had a Miggy pinch hit walk-off. And then a couple of injury notes. Max Scherzer not coming back quite as soon as we had expected. And honestly, I kind of saw this happening. I think that his injury is not one that you just bounce right back from. It's kind of something that takes a little bit of care. But Jimmy, do you want to touch on that real quick?
Yeah, they said I think he's going to go Wednesday against the Dodgers. I think it's a little bit of soreness. It didn't say it was in his oblique or anything. At the end of the day, I mean, he would have pitched today against the Oakland A's. So, I mean, I think it is good that he'll go against the Dodgers. I think they need him a lot more against the Dodgers and against the A's. You won the first 2 games of the series. So this game, I mean, you want to win it to sweep, but you'll take 2 out of 3 and move on, still over 500. So, you hope he's healthy, but I have confidence in his saying he's good. And he said he didn't need an MRI or anything. So, at that age, he's been around, has a pedigree you really have to trust him. And I think Buck Showalter's the type of manager that trusts his players.
Yeah, so you're not worried about like any kind of re-injury or after going out there after this one or anything like that.
I'm not. I think he sits these few days out and then goes back at it. I think he'll be good to go. I mean, he's not a guy that's never gotten hurt before, missed a few starts, right? Seems like every year he's missed a couple of starts, so I'm not too surprised that he's going to be down to start.
Yeah, he's a bit different than other pitchers in the sense that he really has that grit that some other guys don't have. Where if Max Scherzer breaks a fingernail, he's not taking a start off. So he's kind of got that X factor in a veteran pitcher that some of these other guys might not have. That could make him stay out on that mound, even pitching through a bit of soreness. But that wraps it up for our chatting cage for this week. We're going to go to Jimmy now with our MLB Players of the Week.
Yeah, so we got some new faces this week. We have AL Player of the Week. As a Mets fan, this kind of pains me to say, but Jared Kelenic of the Mariners. 9 hits, 3 doubles, 4 home runs, 6 RBI, 409 average with a 1091 slug and a 1571 OPS. So monster breakout week for him. Finally getting significant playing time. The Mariners trusted him and have stuck with him. AL Pitcher of the Week / Player of the Week or Rookie of the Week. I don't like doing this too often. I don't like putting Rookie of the Week in 2 different categories. I kind of like to have 3 different players. But Hunter Brown was just so good for the Astros. 2-0 in 14 innings pitched combined. No runs, 12 strikeouts, 7 hits, and 3 walks, which is good for a .71 whip. So moving on to the NL now, NL Player of the Week. Big bounce back guy in Max Muncy of the Dodgers. 7 hits, 5 of them home runs, 12 RBI, 389 average, 1222 slug, and 1722 OPS. So a huge week for Max. NL Pitcher of the Week. I know you all are big fans of him, and Zach Gallen of the Diamondbacks. He had a 7-inning, no-run, 11 strikeout, 3 hit and 1 walk performance in the win over the Brewers on Monday. And the NL Rookie of the Week, kind of a bright spot for the Reds in Spencer Steer. 8 hits, 2 doubles, 348 average, 444 on-base percentage, and an 879 OPS.
I think it's awesome to see Kelenic kind of coming into his own now and hitting his stride. I think that he's a huge piece if the Mariners want to compete to have a good Jared Kelenic. And people kind of gave up on him too early. I mean, Brad and I are watching Gunnar Henderson struggle on the daily right now. It's Spencer Torkelson has not lived up to the hype. Like, it's a tough time to be a young hitter. Even Bobby Witt Jr. had a bad year last year. Not every guy's going to come up and beat Adley Rutschman right away. So it's good to see him finally starting to hit his stride over there. Bradley, do you want to do our MLB Umpires of the Week?
Yeah, so to follow up on last week, our worst umpire was Jerry Lane, and he decided to follow that up with a masterpiece. Got to get hours after a dismantling performance last week. He had the third game of the year, which was 100% called strike accuracy. There were only 31 games of that last year, so kind of weird that we've already had 3 this year. But our best umpire of the week was Alan Porter. He did the game Wednesday in Minnesota. White Sox were in town. Twins won the game 3-1. His overall factor was .36 runs for Minnesota. Overall accuracy, 98%. Overall consistency, 95%. Called ball accuracy, 100%. Called strike accuracy was 94%. And his relative accuracy was 3.4%, good for 5% or 5 more correct calls than your average umpire. Worst umpire was Alfonso Marquez. He did the game Tuesday in Los Angeles with the Washington Nationals. Overall accuracy for the day was 88%, consistency 91%, called ball 89%, and called strike was 80. For the day was .4 runs for the Nationals. The Angels won the game 2-0, and he was 5.9 fewer correct calls than your average umpire.
See, we will always give credit when somebody has a bad week and then bounces back with a good game. So Jerry Lane, shout out him for kind of course correcting there and coming up with a good game this week. Could you do our MLB Players of the Week now down on the farm?
So in AAA, it was Ronnie Mauricio. He's shortstop for the Syracuse Mets. He's 22 years old. He's the Mets' number 6 prospect, but he was their number 1 prospect just going back a couple years ago. He was signed out of the Dominican back in 2017. He's had a lot of eyes on him for a while, but he's really torn the cover off the ball this year after winning the Dominican Winter League MVP. This past week, he was 9 for 19, scored 7 runs, doubled 4 times, homered 3 times, drove in 7, had a 1.158 slug, and a 1723 OPS. Double A, Andrew Abbott. He's a starting pitcher for the Chattanooga Lookouts. 23 years old, was a 2021 second rounder out of the University of Virginia. He's the 10th prospect in the Red system. He pitched in the Futures game last year. I'm personally high on him. I just recently picked up a couple of his autographs. He got one there at a 150, and then I picked up his Bowman Chrome. Oh, okay. Picked up his Bowman Chrome auto out of 499. So this was before this start, so it's a little early on him. But he's got 25 strikeouts in 10 innings this year. Against the Mississippi Braves this past week, he went 6 innings, allowed only 2 hits, struck out 14, no walks, no earned runs, and picked up a win. High A, Chad Dallas, starting pitcher for the Vancouver Canadians. 22 years old. He was a 2021 fourth rounder out of the University of Tennessee. Not inside the Blue Jays top 30. He was Tennessee's Friday night starter for his 2 years after transferring in from JUCO. He kind of pounded the zone there. He had 125 strikeouts to only 20 walks in college, but he struggled last year, his first year in pro ball, with 85 strikeouts and 51 walks. But you certainly couldn't tell that was an issue after his debut this week. He went 5 innings, allowed 4 hits, 1 earned run, struck out 11, had only walked 1. Low A, Chris Newell. He is with the Rancho Cucamonga Quakers, 21 years old. He's actually celebrating his birthday this coming Friday, so happy early birthday to you, Chris. He's not inside the Dodgers top 30. He's a 2022 13th rounder, also out of Virginia. He committed to Virginia as a 15-year-old, and then a couple weeks later he tore his UCL, underwent Tommy John as a 16-year-old. So he's really had a strong comeback from that, went on to play Division I baseball, pro ball, whole thing. And now this past week, he went 7 for 19, scored 5 runs, homered 3 times, drove in 7, swiped 4 bags, had an 850 slug, and a 1320 OPS.
And for the second week in a row, I'm going to throw in a quadruple A player of the week. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's this little-known prospect named Fernando Tatis Jr. And he has 5 home runs in his last 2 games, and we're going to see him back on a big league field this coming week. So super excited to see Tatis back in the bigs. I mean, I know it's AAA and whatnot, but he has torn the cover off the ball. I'm super excited to see what he does back at the big league level. Now we're going to go.
Do you think you could trade him for a guy like James Shields?
I think that would be a stretch. I don't think I could see that one coming to fruition. Now we're going to jump to our sour rankings for the week. The sour rankings, we have the Seattle Mariners, number 5. I don't know if this is really considered sour because we didn't think that they were going to be all that good. But other people did think that they were going to be super good, and they haven't played super good. So even if they've played kind of how we figured they would, they're playing below other people's expectations, and that puts them at number 5 on the sour rankings. Number 4, the Philadelphia Phillies continue to struggle. And number 3 is a similar team with the St. Louis Cardinals continuing to struggle early on in the season, hoping for both of them to bounce back because we had a pair of division winners there in our preseason predictions. Number 2, we already touched on the piss poor Oakland Athletics. And their performance on the field as well as their performance in the stadium has been pitiful so far. And number 1, we've got Javi Baez and the Detroit Tigers. Javi Baez is the worst baseball player to ever live in the history of the planet, and the Detroit Tigers are paying him a boatload of money. The final straw to get him to number 1 wasn't all these pitches outside of the zone that he's swinging at, and it wasn't his terrible baseball savant page. It was really him just checking out during baseball games at this point, and getting thrown out at second base on a easy fly ball with less than 2 outs that he just jogged to third base on. He seems completely checked out. The Tigers are still employing him. AJ Hinch is bad-mouthing his veteran players to the media on a nightly basis. It's a complete disaster over there in Detroit. Now to go to our power rankings. Counting down from number 5. Number 5 is the defending world champion Houston Astros, down a few spots. They started the year at number 1 and they're down to number 5. In the past couple of years, number 1 hasn't really fallen off this quickly. We kind of held the Dodgers there for quite a while the last 2 years. But the Astros, other teams have played so well, really, and the Astros have played so mid that it's kind of bumped them down the rankings. Number 4, we have the San Diego Padres, who were last week's number 1 team. So another number 1 team losing their spot there. Number 3, the Toronto Blue Jays have played fantastic. Number 2, the Tampa Bay Rays have climbed from not ranked to number 2 in just 2 weeks after their stretch there of winning 13 straight. And number 1 is the Atlanta Braves, who have played rock solid, really looking like the possible, we always thought there was a chance of them winning the East, but we're looking like the strongest team in baseball right now after playing a good series against the Padres, even if we lost 3 out of 4 the previous week. So hanging in there with the previous number 1 team and continuing to win. So 5 through 1 is the Astros, Padres, Blue Jays, Rays, Braves. For 6 through 10, you can check us out on social media at CTBP Pod. We'll also have other weekly posts on social media that aren't a part of the podcast here, like the fantasy forecast, where Jackson runs down players to start, add, bench, and cut each week in fantasy baseball. And we have the Sunday Night Baseball Pick'em coming out tonight. We've also got Trivia Tuesdays. We have Question of the Week. We have Almost Friday posts. The MLB Research Stat of the Week. Brad's must-see matchups on Friday. Ed Gonnell's Call to the Show live streamed with MLB The Show 23. Owen Brown's top 5 plays. So definitely check us out on social media at CTBP Pod and tune in next week for another episode.